Hi everyone! Today I'm going to be talking about some of the recent reads that I've done and also the 3 DNFs. So I've combined the few books, they're mostly children's books because I just don't have too much to say about them, but I didn't want to skip over them and not mention them at all. So I've just combined it all in one video because I'm also quite behind on all the wrap-ups. Like I've got 2 other wrap-ups that I need to film, the 3 book ones. So I've combined these ones to talk to you about those. And I'm going to start with the DNFs because it's slightly different to the rest of the stack here. So the first DNF I had was The Magic Toy Shop by Angela Carter. And I was really looking forward to this book. It is like, I guess, magical realism type thing. So in this one we follow our main character who is a teenage girl. And after a tragedy she's got to go and live in her uncle's house. And he's got his like business of creating puppets or dolls and they seem a little bit too real. I expected to really love it because I've heard great things about this author in general, but I can't remember how far I've gotten into it. I think I was over halfway through, but I just couldn't stand being in the main character's head. She was so almost arrogant, obnoxious. She kept thinking about, I don't know, sexual stuff, and for some reason that just really put me off. I know she's a teenager and just exploring and blah blah blah, I couldn't care less about this, to be honest with you. So that was one of the reasons, and I found it incredibly boring. Nothing was happening. I was not interested in like day-to-day stuff in this one. I don't normally mind that in books. I do enjoy books that would be just focused on one main character and how they go about day-to-day life, but this one just wasn't one of them. There was literally nothing happening, and I think it was sort of hinting at some creepy bits that were about to happen, but I just couldn't care less, and quite frankly I can't remember much about it at all, and it's been quite a while, I think a couple of months since I DNF'd that one. So I remember thinking that it was going into one direction that if it was going into that direction I wouldn't be happy with it, so I just couldn't care less. And even if it's a small book, I just literally couldn't care less, and after I decided to DNF it I never regretted it. So I don't think that author is for me. I know it's judging one by one book, but there's just something about it just didn't like at all. It was boring, there wasn't much of an atmosphere I think for me, and like I said, the main character just frustrated me constantly, and the creepy direction it was going in, I didn't like it, and the romantic interest that was happening, that was just weird. I did not like it at all. So it's just, I was a bit grossed out in some points as well of like her thoughts and stuff. No, that was not for me. The next one I tried was The Way of All Flesh by Ambrose Parry, and honestly I thought I was going to really enjoy this book. This is like a historical crime novel. This one is set in 1847 in Edinburgh, and we follow 2 main characters. One of them is like a doctor, or no, he's the apprentice for the famous doctor, and we also have his housemaid, the doctor's housemaid, and these 2 characters somehow find themselves in a situation where they're sort of investigating a murder, I guess, and there's going to be happening a lot more, and whilst they're doing all of that they're putting themselves more in danger. Which sounds like a good premise and everything, but I did not get far into this book at all. I think I read about 30 pages. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. It could have been more than that. I can't remember exactly. But it's definitely atmospheric, this book, but I did not like this kind of atmosphere. It was too bleak. It was too depressing. It was all like, I don't know, filthy streets and a lot of violence as well, and I don't mind bleak atmosphere if it's done well, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense, but it just felt a little bit too depressing. It was putting me down reading all of that, and like I said, there was a lot of violence. I'm not into violence in books at all, and the main character as well, he was quite annoying too. The way he treated women and thought about women is just not nice. I know it's like said back in the past, but I still don't want to read about it. And also the actual story was so slow, like to the point I think I've read about 60 or 70 pages. and I just could not stand it any longer. It couldn't get any slower, and I just did not like it at all. And so there was nothing for me to care about. I wasn't a fan of, well, actually the housemaid's perspective was a little bit better, but it just felt so slow, and at the point of me not enjoying the atmosphere, not enjoying one of the main characters, and the book being very slow, I just thought, I can't be dealing with this right now. It was putting me in a bad mood and feeling quite low, like I said. So I just decided not to carry on with it, and again, I did not regret the decision. My next one is Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. I really loved the 13th Tale, and then I also read her other book, which was called Bellman and Black, I think, and I sort of enjoyed that one, but I gave it 3 stars only. So this one I was really looking forward to, and it was on my TBR for years and years, but again, for the reason that I thought, what if I don't like it? And I was right on this occasion. So this one I think is again another historical fiction. I can't remember what year it's set in. I think it's like 19th century, I think. And so we follow the story of, there's this pub somewhere in the evening, and there's somebody walks in with a girl in their hands that appears to be dead. But then later on she's alive. So there's a mystery of how she's alive. Was she dead in the first place? Who is she? Where does she come from? And stuff like that. And it's basically following a few different characters from this little village type thing. And I can definitely say this book is very atmospheric, and I was interested in the mystery of who the girl actually was, where she came from, because there were 3 different families as well. One lost a girl, like might have been kidnapped. Another one just again disappeared, so we don't know who she is because she also can't speak. And yeah, so there's a mystery of that, which I was interested in. I got, I think, under halfway through, or just about halfway through, and again I just could not put myself through it. It was such a slow book. It was one of the slowest books I've ever read. It felt like running in thick water. That's how this book felt to me. I just couldn't. And yes, when I was reading it I was enjoying it, but I couldn't read it for too long because it felt like nothing was happening much, and I just couldn't put myself through it. So that was my main problem with the book. The pacing was terribly slow, and like I said, I don't always mind it. I guess I wasn't in the right mind to read this kind of book, but it was just so slow. And it's rather a big book, it's 400 pages, and when it's something that slow that nothing really happens, oh god, I was not a fan of this one. But like I said, the atmosphere is the strongest point, and we do get to see a lot of different characters, a lot of different points of views and their backstories and everything, which was quite interesting. And it's like a closed up community type thing where we get to know everyone's life stories and everything, so it is interesting, but it's just the pacing that really threw me off. That was the only problem I had with this book, to the point that I just couldn't carry on with it anymore and decided not to read it anymore. And I'm not sure if I'm ever going to be reading anything else by this author, because like I said, I really enjoyed the 13th Tale, but the second book was a bit of a disappointment, and then this one I didn't even finish. So I don't know, it felt like it was a little bit too flowery, too distracting, too much of that, and nothing was happening for most of what I read. So it is a shame. It took me a long time to make a decision of not reading the book, but I finally decided not to carry on with it. Now I'm gonna briefly talk about the 6 books that I've read. Most of them are children's books. In fact, I think all of them are children's books, so I don't have a lot to say about them, so I'm just gonna combine all of those things. But the first one I want to talk about is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. It is definitely a reread for me. I've read it about 10 times, maybe more than that, in my life. But this time I was reading it with a friend who's never read the books before, and it was quite a great experience. I really enjoyed the experience of it, and just chatting to him all about it, it was just amazing. I loved the experience, and I can't wait to go into the second book. The next one was The Book Cat by Polly Faber and illustrated by Clara... Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. I really like the cover. And this one is a children's book, like I said, which is set in the period of World War II. We follow the main character, who's a cat, and he finds himself in a situation where he's training 20 kittens to become book cats. It's a really sweet story. I really enjoyed it. It's got like quite a lot of different cute illustrations as well throughout the book, and I think I pretty much read it in one sitting. It was just adorable. It was so sweet, and I always love books about cats, or well, where we are in the head of a cat. It's just the sweetest story. I gave this one 4 stars, but I don't have much to say about it because, like I said, it is only a children's book. It's only very short, but it's very wholesome, it's very cute, very sweet, and it's just adorable. The next one is Skeleton Keys, The Unimaginary Friend by Guy Bass. And I read The Haunting of Luna Moon back a few months ago, but it was the second book in a series, and I really enjoyed that one, so I thought I'd buy the first one in the series and read it from the beginning. So I did. What I love about these books is the illustrations and the atmosphere. I didn't tell you what this book is about, by the way. So in this book we follow our main character, who is a boy, and he's got this imaginary friend, although one day this imaginary friend becomes unimaginary, which means he's there, he's alive, and there's a lot of adventures going on around it. I really like the cover. It's quite creepy. I'm sorry about the reflections, but the sun just sort of decided to show up out of nowhere. But yes, I really like, even if you look at the edges, it's all sort of tinted black, and there are quite a lot of illustrations throughout it. So what I did with this book, as well as I did with the previous one that I read from the series, is read them in the bath. The most atmospheric thing, like with the candles, only with candles, with like creepy piano music. It just makes it so much more atmospheric. So yes, it was quite cute and sweet. I gave it 3 stars only. This was a cute story. Again, it was interesting and very atmospheric and just fun adventure type thing. But on the creepy side, that's what I like about middle grades that are creepy. But I didn't enjoy it quite as much as I enjoyed The Haunting of Luna Moon, because that one, this story actually resonated with me a little bit more, and I felt for the girl a lot more. But this one, whilst it was cute and everything, I didn't quite enjoy it quite as much. So I'm not sure if I want to carry on with the series, but again, it's one of those creepy middle grades that I do enjoy reading. So, but I'm glad I read this one. I might carry on with the series, or I might not, I'm not too sure. Then I've got The Castle of Tangled Magic by Sophie Anderson. I've got the signed copy of this book as well. It's been on my TBR for quite a while as well. And I really enjoyed her book, The House with Chicken Legs. That was a great book. I really enjoyed it. The Bear, The Girl Who Speaks Bear wasn't my favourite, and this one, again, I originally rated it 3 stars, but now I've lowered the rating to 2 stars because I've realised, whilst I've really enjoyed The House with Chicken Legs, but again, that's because it was on the creepy side of middle grade, and with Slavic mythology, which I grew up on that, so it's kind of close to home and everything. The atmosphere was perfect, but all of the other books by her, they're just not, they're just your typical middle grade, and I've sort of lost interest in those, if I'm honest. So I've decided, after reading this one, I'm not going to carry on with this author's stuff, unfortunately. I had this book on my TBR as well, but after reading this one, I'm gonna unhaul it because, like I said, I've realised this author is not for me. I'm sorry if anybody really likes her books, but it's just, I've decided it's not quite for me. So I'm going to read you what the blurb's about. When 13-year-old Olia steps through a magical doorway, she discovers another land. A land tangled by magic, where hope is lost and a scheming wizard holds all the power. Soon Olia learns that she's destined to save this land, but with the time running out and her new friends and family in danger, she must search for the magic within herself to save everything and everyone she loves. So it's a cute story, and it does have different illustrations as well. And again, I think a lot of it is based on Slavic mythology, which I thought I was going to enjoy, but I only gave it 2 stars. Again, it felt like too generic, and whilst, yes, it was quite atmospheric as well, it's just, I've lost interest in middle grades that are just, I don't know, fantasy middle grades. When they go to save somebody or save the world and stuff like that, they go through different adventures, meet different creatures and stuff like that. It's just not my type of thing, like the journey type thing. of middle grades. I'm not into that anymore. At least I've learned that throughout reading this book. And I was considering DNFing it, and I don't think it would have made much difference if I did. So unfortunately, I've decided on that. But that's, again, the thing that I've discovered about my taste. Not a fan of middle grades that are just like adventures of going to places and stuff like that. I enjoy creepy middle grades. That's what I do enjoy, not your normal sort of fantasy or contemporary middle grade. Just don't care for those too much. And the last two books I want to talk about, I'll talk about them in one go. It's the two books by Michael Morpurgo. So we've got The Amazing Story of Adolphus Tips, and we've got A Medal for Leroy. I'm going to read you the blurbs and then just quickly talk about them. The first one. It's 1943. Lily Tregenza lives on a farm in the seaside village of Slapton, and her life is scarcely touched by the war, until one day when the villagers are all told to move out of their homes, lock, stock and barrel. Soon the whole area is out of bounds as the Allied forces prepare to invade France, but Tips, Lily's adored cat, has other ideas and returns to the forbidden area. Frantic to find her, Lily decides to enter the danger zone to look for Tips herself. Originally, I gave this one 4 stars, and I think I cried in this book as well, but ever since time has passed, I've sort of lowered it down to 3 stars because it wasn't quite memorable. And whilst I do enjoy all of his books at a time and sometimes even cry looking back on them, they're only 3-star books for me. I've got not much to say about this book at all now. It was just cute. It was very like touching and everything. And like I said, I did cry at one point, but it's nothing I'm going to remember or look back on and think, oh, that was a great book, because it was interesting, but nothing too memorable for me. And so we've got this one as well. Michael doesn't remember his father. He was an RAF pilot lost in the war, but that's all Michael knows. And his mother won't talk about him. But when Michael's auntie Snowdrop gives him a medal and then a faded photograph, a story begins to be told. A secret story about his family and who Michael's father really was. A story that will change everything. Similar situation again. It was cute. I don't think I cried in this one. I think I gave this one 3 stars. I might have lowered it to 2, but I don't think I did actually. I think it was 3 stars. Not sure. And again, that one does have illustrations as well. And again, it was just a cute, wholesome story, touching, and see, I don't have much to say about these two at all. And I do have quite a few books by this author left on my TBR. And if I'm honest, I'm not quite looking forward to reading them. I was sort of thinking about not DNFing them, about unhauling them. But at the same time, they're just short and quick reads when you want to break in between different books. And they're just nice books anyway, and I do enjoy them. Every single book I've read by him, I did enjoy. They're just not exactly memorable. They're not going to be my favourite books of all time, I think. So, I don't know. But I'm still keeping them, and hopefully I'll find a new favourite from the collection that I've got by him anyway. And the last one actually, sorry, is the manga that I decided to read. It's the Sailor Moon, the Internal Edition Volume 1. I think it was the first manga I've ever read. I'm not really into comics or graphic novels or mangas or anything like that. It's just not my kind of thing. I tried a few times, it just doesn't work for me. I don't care enough about it. But recently, for some reason, I started thinking about Sailor Moon. I even bought the Monopoly version of it when I saw that in Waterstones one day. Ooh. But I remember being absolutely obsessed with the anime when I was a child. I used to watch it a hell of a lot. I used to play like to pretend to be her. I had everything with Sailor Moon and stuff like that. I was just absolutely obsessed back in the day. And so I think one day I accidentally came across those mangas on Amazon when I was browsing something. I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a try. So I bought it, the Kindle version, and it was just alright. It was a 3-star for me, I think. Did I give it 2 stars? No, I think it was 3 stars. It was mostly for like nostalgia element. I find it almost boring because it's not the same as the anime with all the colourful stuff. There weren't many coloured pages in there, which I think sort of lessened my interest as well, however shallow that sounds, but it's just, in my mind, I always remember it being like a very colourful show. But in this one, what did make me feel a little bit uneasy as well is that the main characters are about 14-year-old girls, and in the manga even they are drawn with like very short skirts, and I don't know, very, very short skirts, and to the point they were like almost sexualized by the author, and I just found that a little bit, I'm not sure, I just found it a bit creepy, and so that put me off a bit as well. That's not okay. So yeah, I'm not going to be carrying on with the series because I guess I've grown out of it as well, which makes sense, but it was just for nostalgia element. I did sort of enjoy it for that matter, but I'm not going to be carrying on with the series. So yeah, these are my recent reads and recent DNFs. Like I said, there will be 2 more at least coming at some point of my 3 book wrap-ups that I've read recently. I'm just so behind on all of that, so I need to catch up and film them as well. But yes, please let me know what you thought of any of the books that I just mentioned, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!